Welcome. Have you ever actually stopped to think about how humanity tracked time before dates, before mechanical clocks, and way before those smartphones we all carry around even existed? Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to explore the incredible, totally untold history of time. Today, we're looking at how our ancestors mathematically mapped the entire universe, long before modern technology handed us the answers right in the palm of our hands.
Ask yourself, what actually existed before the year 0001? Just imagine living your life with absolutely no concept of dates. For us, knowing whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday is second nature. We don't even think about it. But for our ancient ancestors, time was kind of like this invisible enemy. You couldn't catch it, and you certainly couldn't stop it. Figuring out time wasn't some intellectual luxury. It was a literal matter of sheer survival.
So here is our historical roadmap for today's explainer. We've got 5 stops: the beginning and need for time, secrets hidden in stones, India's astronomical precision, Rome's calendar confusion, and finally the wild moment when days just completely disappeared from history. We are going on a global journey to solve the ultimate puzzle of time.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The beginning and need for time. Africa's earliest mathematical artifact.
Back in prehistoric times, avoiding starvation meant you desperately needed to track the seasons. If you didn't know when the seasons were changing, well, you had no idea when to plant your seeds. Plant too early before the monsoon hits, and your crops are totally ruined. Plant too late, and they just dry up. They had to figure it out. And that brings us to the number 168. In what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo, someone picked up a baboon bone, which we call the Ishango bone today, and made these very systematic notches in it. For the longest time, researchers thought it was just a random design. But then, in the 1970s, archaeologist Alexander Marshak did a microscopic analysis. And what he found was absolutely incredible. He discovered that the 3 columns of precisely 168 notches perfectly matched a 6-month lunar cycle. No way, right? This wasn't just random scratching. It's one of the world's oldest mathematical artifacts. It proves that hunter-gatherers, way before kings or cities were even a thought, were having their very first silent mathematical conversation with the sky.
Section 2. The secret hidden in stones. The monumental debate of Stonehenge. Let's move from ancient bones in Africa over to the massive, mysterious stones of Wiltshire, England. For thousands of years, these giant stones have just stood there silently, leaving the rest of humanity to basically guess their true purpose. And what's truly fascinating is the intense academic debate happening right now about what those stones actually do. In 2022, Professor Timothy Darvill published a paper arguing that Stonehenge was in fact a perpetual solar calendar. He suggested the stones were arranged to calculate a 365-day year, literally even accounting for leap years. But, history's rarely a one-sided story. Just a year later, in 2023, mathematicians Magli and Belmonte completely rejected that idea. They argued the stones just aren't precise enough to be a solar calculator and asserted it was simply a memorial monument for ancestors. Now, we aren't here to take a side in this clash, but it brilliantly shows how eager we all are to find the science of time hidden within ancient, monumental structures.
Section 3. India's astronomical precision, ancient Eastern precision, and the Vedanga Jyotisha. While the Western world was historically trying to, align massive stones, ancient India was developing a concept of time with a level of precision that is actually still relevant today. Around 1500 BC, a brilliant scientist named Sage Lagada compiled the Vedanga Jyotisha, and he directly tackled a massive mathematical puzzle that was plaguing astronomers all over the world. See, a lunar year, based on the moon's 12-month cycle, is about 354 days, but a solar year, based on the sun, is 365 days, so you are left with an 11-day gap every single year. Sage Lagada realized that if you just followed the moon, within 10 to 15 years, your summer crops would completely shift into the winter season. The entire calendar would be totally out of sync with nature.
And this brilliantly illustrates how Indian intellectuals solved that exact problem. They introduced the concept of Adhik Mas, also known as Mal Mas. Instead of letting the calendar completely break down, they simply added a 13th, true month exactly every 32.5 months. This beautifully organic system perfectly realigned the lunar and solar calendars without ever breaking nature's cycle. It was basically a genius auto-correcting system.
But they didn't just stop at tracking months. The Indian Panchang is incredibly comprehensive. It maps the Earth's position relative to the cosmos across 5 unique parts: Tithi, Nakshatra, Yoga, Karana, and Var. And they went microscopic with it too. They measured time in units like Shruti and Nimish, which are essentially the ancient equivalents of nanoseconds. You can actually see this extreme dedication to precision in the 13th century Konark Sun Temple in Odisha. It features these 24 massive wheels that aren't just for decoration, they are highly precise sundials. By looking at the shadows on these wheels, you can measure the time down to the exact minute.
Section 4. Rome's calendar confusion, when time became a political weapon.
Moving west to the Roman Republic, we get to see what happens when the measurement of time isn't used for agriculture or science, but as a literal political weapon. The Roman priests, or pontifices, completely abused their power over the calendar. Instead of tracking the cosmos, these corrupt politicians literally bent time to suit their own terms. If a political ally was in power, they'd just magically lengthen the year. And if an enemy was in power, they'd shorten it. It is wild to think about politicians trying to legislate the actual length of a year. The result, as you'd guess, was absolute chaos. The seasons became severely misaligned, to the point where summer festivals were landing smack in the middle of spring.
This whole mess reached its absolute peak in 46 BC. Julius Caesar finally realized, hey, you can't run an empire on a broken clock. So he brought in an astronomer named Sosthenes to fix it. But to reset the system, they had to establish what became known as the Year of Confusion. That massive number, 445, represents the absurd amount of days they had to drag the year out to just to get the calendar back on track with the sun.
So, Caesar introduces the Julian calendar, setting up a 365-day year with a leap year every 4 years. Simple, right? Well, there was a hidden flaw, known as the Julian error. Sosthenes calculated the solar year at exactly 365.25 days, but he completely missed a crucial shortage of 11 minutes and 4 seconds. Now, 11 minutes might sound tiny, almost insignificant, but so the crucial point is, when that error is compounded over centuries, it adds up to a full day every 128 years. This tiny math error was setting the whole world up for a massive historical crisis.
Section 5. When days disappeared from history, the 16th century calendar crisis.
By the 16th century, that compounding 11-minute error meant the Julian calendar was now 10 full days out of sync with the actual solar year. This was a massive crisis, especially for the timing of religious festivals like Easter, which were landing on entirely the wrong dates. To fix this, Pope Gregory XIII issued a radical, totally shocking decree. In October 1582, he ordered that people would go to sleep on October 4th, and when they woke up the very next morning, it would instantly be October 15th. They literally deleted 10 days from history to hit the reset button. Can you even imagine the sheer shock of losing 10 days of your life overnight?
The global fallout was, well, absolute chaos. There were literally riots in the streets of Europe. People genuinely believed the church had stolen 10 days of their lives, not to mention their wages and their rent. Because calendars are so deeply tied to religious and national identity, the adoption of this new Gregorian calendar was fiercely delayed. Britain absolutely refused to adopt it until 1752, by which point they actually had to delete 11 days. And Russia? They resisted the change all the way until their 1918 revolution.
So let's look at where we stand today. We rely on modern atomic clocks for nanosecond precision over millions of years without losing a single beat. It's incredible. Yet a massive part of humanity still lives in dual time. They rely on ancient lunisolar systems to connect with the cosmos for things like weddings, agricultural timing, and major religious festivals. We might use the modern calendar to go to the office or, catch a flight. But for our most important cultural moments, we still rely heavily on that organic cosmic connection.
So what does this all mean? I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are we just passengers swimming in time? From the prehistoric hunters marking bones in Africa, to the ancient Indians calculating nanoseconds, all the way to the Roman politicians battling over days, humanity has shared this unified, millennia-long struggle to map the universe. We're just travelers who decided to name time, divide it, and turn it into history. Think about that the next time you look down at your watch. You're not just checking the hour, you're looking at the greatest triumph of human civilization. Thank you for joining me on this explainer.